First of all, the consequences are extremely negative for those who are suffering directly the war, namely the Ukrainian people, because there is a brutal invasion provoked by Russia without any kind of reason. The reason is that Russia is not respecting the sovereignty and the territorial integrity of Ukraine, and so a lot of suffering is going on. So this is the biggest consequence. Besides that, of course, there are consequences for Europe as a whole, because it's a problem of stability in Europe. We have in the center of Europe one country that is being invaded by another that is, by the way, the biggest country in the world in geographical terms, and trying even to change the borders. That, of course, can bring many, let's say, focus of instability to Europe, including other parts of Europe. Thirdly, we have an energy crisis, as you know. It was provoked by that invasion, and that is having an impact not only in our industry, but in our households, including in inflation, for the cost of life for our common citizens. But there are other consequences that are deeper, because Russia is becoming closer and closer with China, so there is a risk of decoupling globally. With the competition going on between the United States and China, the risks of a global decoupling are increasing, which is, of course, also an issue for global trade, global investment, and even beyond trade and investment for global cooperation. We are now going to have the G20 summit some days from now, so I would like to see the different countries in the world, namely the most important economies, cooperating in spite of the differences, and we know there are political, ideological divergences between those countries. It is important that for some global public goods, they cooperate. I'm now pro bono, I'm chairman of Gavi, the Global Alliance for Vaccines. So I've been working with countries all over the world to try to make vaccines reach the poorest countries in the world. The virus, the COVID-19 virus, does not need a visa to travel. So that's why the countries have to cooperate globally. And I'm concerned with the current level of cooperation or lack of cooperation when it comes to those global public goods. So this war of Russia against Ukraine is not just a European problem. It is certainly a European issue, but it has a huge dimension because of its escalation risks and also because of its ramifications geopolitically, but also geoeconomically. Europe is doing its best. Europe is reacting, first of all, with, I believe, a rather positive level of cooperation. Of course, there is always some voices that are dissenting voices, but we can expect that in a union of 27 countries. But by and large, we can say that the European Union has been acting in a coherent manner and in a generosity manner as well, supporting Ukraine not only politically, economically, militarily, but also in terms of receiving refugees. So, on general terms, I think Europe has been reacting with a very, let's say, positive level of coherence and consistency. The basic risks, first of all, Europe has some structural risks. One of them is demographics. We are in not a good position when we compare to some of our competitors or our partners. So we have an aging population, and that is not good for the productivity, for the creativity, also from sustainability of our public pension fund. So we need more young people. That's why, by the way, we need migration, but we need well-managed migration to avoid, of course, some disruptive movements, including sometimes xenophobic movements. But we need migration. Europe needs more workers, more force. That's an issue, very difficult to manage. How can we have migration that is properly managed and does not become problem, a political problem in some countries, as you know, that is happening, and also the overall competitiveness of our economy. And from that point of view, I'm worried with energy, because our energy in Europe is more expensive than our competitors. I don't speak, of course, about Russia, that is the biggest exporter of fossil fuels, but they have other problems. But the United States, they have energy at a much lower cost than we have. So there are risks of delocalization of some of our industry. So there are issues of competitiveness to our industry in Europe, including Italy, France, Germany, and almost our countries, because the reality is that in Europe, our supply chains are relatively well integrated. So yes, this is the basic challenge we have, is to keep our competitiveness of our economy with the aging workforce, also with the pessimism that also sometimes brings, and also at the same time trying to achieve very ambitious goals in terms of sustainability. Besides that, of course, we are 27 countries. Sometimes it's not easy to agree among 27. At the end of the day, I think we can agree. But sometimes I would like to see those agreements faster, so to have a quicker decision than what we are seeing nowadays. But overall, I believe we will do it. I don't want to convey to you a negative or pessimistic impression. I remember, that's what I mentioned now in this small conference I made, when we were in the financial crisis, sovereign debt crisis, the year after 2008, many people were predicting Greece leaving the euro, the collapse of the euro. Do you remember that? Including, by the way, in Italy, very negative scenarios. The reality is that Europe survived. The euro is there. It's a very important, stable currency. And we have a lot of assets. But the problem sometimes is that the decisions taken too much time. And we are in a world where we need decisions to be faster, namely to adapt to different situations, including situations that can become more difficult because of geopolitical developments. Look at what happened with Russia. Who could predict it? What happened in February, some time ago? Could anyone predict Finland and Sweden joining NATO? No one will think about it just in February this year. Or that now there is no more oil coming or gas coming from Russia. That is a fundamental change. So we have, in terms of risk management, to be prepared for the unthinkable, including, by the way, with possible global decouplings, including China. This is why we are in a situation that is very demanding from the point of view of adaptation of our companies, of our business in general.